Have you wrestled with imposter syndrome, excessive and unsubstantiated self-doubt coupled with an uncanny lack of confidence? I'm your host, Betty Danowitz. Listen as I interview highly successful individuals about their experience with this imposter syndrome and how it manifests itself in their lives in this If You Ask Betty podcast series dealing with imposter syndrome. Hi, Sonia. Thanks
Hi,
for being on the
Betty.
podcast.
Thank you. As I defeat all those imposter syndrome demons there.
That's right. Punch those monsters right in the face.
Yes.
So, Sonia, tell us about you.
Me. I am a frustrated former computer geek. I actually used to be a computer programmer. Decided that I didn't want, okay, here's the actual thought pattern, two of them. One, I literally saw my position, my intern position with the U.S. Navy crossed out of the federal budget. Back when Graham Rudman came and they had to balance the budget, I literally saw them scratch out my position. I was like, maybe this isn't the career for me. And then I was like, I don't want to sit in front of a computer all day. So I changed.
We all said that.
Yes.
We all said that at one point,
yes.
I think. Yeah.
So I changed my major to media production, communications, specializing in media production and management. Figured I'd be out in the field, taping things, running all around, and I end up sitting in front of a computer all day.
Yeah. So what would you say are some of your biggest accomplishments in life and in work?
In life, right now, I am taking back control of my life. I have decided to follow my own advice that I give to other people, and I'm living, strategically planning to live the life I want to live for me. I'm no longer an apostrophe S. I'm not my mother's daughter, my uncle's niece, et cetera, all those other things that usually hold us back. And I'm trying to find my identity this late in life.
I think that's amazing. So many of us never even get there.
Well,
we just stay that apostrophe.
Yes.
I love that.
Unfortunately, the folks in my life passed away. So that forced me to strip the apostrophe S. I couldn't live behind those shields anymore. And because I had been coasting in life off the kindness of my friends, I noticed that I wasn't really controlling my life. I was just letting it happen. And then I got on a scale and saw almost 300 pounds, which is by far my heaviest weight ever. And it freaked me out. I went, no, I can't do this anymore. I have to take control back.
Yeah.
And so I'm proud to say now I'm hovering right around 215. So
nice job. Nice work. That's an accomplishment you should be very proud of.
I am.
That is hard work.
Yes.
Hard work.
So I still have a ways to go before I'm more comfortable. I'm also a cancer survivor. And one of the things when I was going through my radiation, I did hit my ideal weight. And then the doctor said, no, you have to go back up because we've calibrated all your medicines to it as opposed to recalibrating the medicines. So that's when I started losing control of my life.
Yeah. What would you say if I were to ask other people about you to say, tell us about Sonia, tell us about her biggest accomplishments, what would others say about you?
Very good question. I think they would always say that I had great patience, although the ones who really know me know I can fake patience. And that I definitely am always willing to share my knowledge. I don't like silos, and tend to rebel against silos.
Yeah. I'm not supposed to talk to that person. I'll be right back. I'm going to go eat lunch with them.
I wasn't supposed to talk to the computer programmers when I took over. I left communications and went into a web company. Well, it wasn't a web company at the time. They were a multimedia company. And I wasn't supposed to talk to the programmers. even though I had written on my resume that I used to be a programmer, so I could talk the
Right.
talk. So first thing I did was went and had lunch with the programmers.
Yep. Smart.
Got to,
And buying lunch is even better.
yes,
You always buy lunch for the IT guy.
yes,
Like, this is why I don't know why people don't know this. This is it, man.
yes. You also,
They're more important than the CEO and the president when it comes to having lunch with
second
somebody.
only to the cleaning crew.
Agreed.
I remember teaching the cleaning crew of one set English because the gentleman deliberately did not hire English speakers because he didn't want others to influence them. So I knew just enough Spanish to teach them English.
Wow. Wow. That's a heck of a story. Oh my goodness. That's like something off a television show, like Casino or something. Remember that show a long time ago? Like, yeah, something like that.
You know, you always make friends of people below because you may end up back down there.
Yeah, and those people tend to be helpful and, willing to be honest and open and vulnerable.
Yes.
Like, so yeah, absolutely.
And the programmers aren't used to people talking to them.
No, they're not. They are, I mean, I hate to be generalizing, there we go. Generalizing that computer programmers are awkward, but I haven't met one yet that isn't.
I've met a few.
Either that or I'm the awkward one. It's very possible that it's me that's awkward. But I receive that.
When you understand their talk, they recognize to the point where there was one set of programmers that I kept looking at their coding and I didn't say anything. So I walked back to the CEO. Oh, so we're getting a gaming engine as part of our learning stuff. He's like, say what?
He's like, wait, what? Yeah.
Learning engine. They're back there programming a gaming engine. Didn't you realize this? No. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to do that. So what has been your experience with imposter syndrome?
I have always gone into a situation, in a sense, faking it. Because when I got the job with the Navy, I was told I only got it because I was a Black female, so they could tick off 2 boxes on the diversity chart.
Wow.
So, and then they accepted me and I felt comfortable so I could bloom. Then going off into communication, again, the Black female, usually we're the stereotype is that we're the cable runners because it was before Oprah. So we're the cable runners and all that. I had a prominent, the station I worked for covered local sports, and the rival coach came to town and assumed that I was just a cable girl. No, I was the producer. and things like that. When it sabotaged me the most is when I went into completely out of my field of comfort and became an administrator. And the management style of the persons that were in charge did not mesh mine. And I had come to her because my direct supervisor had left. Mm-hmm. So I didn't get the full training, and usually I can pick up things on my own, but there was an extremely specialized way of doing things. I didn't fit into that. When I realized that I'm doing my self-imposter syndrome of self-fulfillment, I knew I was going to do horribly, so I'm doing horribly, and et cetera, spiral down.
Sure.
And I believed some of the things that were being said and done. My mom said, I need you here to take care of me. Quit. Okay. And so I've been building back up.
Sure.
And I'm glad I did, because she only lasted about another 8 months or so.
That's important time that you spent with her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's when I regained the patience and just now I'm beginning to regain the confidence in my skills.
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. Everything withstanding.
Yeah.
Now I just have to prove it to everybody.
Yeah. What would you say, like, when you're having an episode of imposter syndrome, how does it manifest itself? So you mentioned actually a couple of words that I'm hoping you'll circle back to, but for some people it's like perfectionism, overachieving, self-sabotage. Like, what do you experience? What happens?
I have always been an overachiever. I'm the firstborn in both sides of my family, American. So I
Mm-hmm.
get that immigrant pressure. I have always, the first time I experienced the imposter syndrome was panic attack,
Mm,
imposter syndrome was my first semester in college. No one doesn't tell you that college honors is different from high school honors.
mm-hmm.
High school
Very
honors, you
different.
can take all honors classes and have time to do all your extra things. I go around telling people now only take two on college honors classes a semester because
Yeah,
it's a completely different mindset.
it really is.
Um, all that being said, I actually failed my first F ever
Oh,
was my first semester in college, and I had some beautiful mentors who lost my records so that I wouldn't lose my scholarship. And the college I went to had a forgiveness program. So I was able to take the classes over again on forgiveness, get my GPA back up, regain my confidence.
that's wonderful. Yeah.
Um, the next biggest panic attack was when I took the job at what was then a multimedia company, which turned into an e-learning company, and realized that if I don't step up, I'm not going to have a job.
Mm,
So I overachieved again, went above and beyond all those long hours, and then slowly going, but I don't know if anybody's believing me, if I'm faking it right now. I hadn't learned yet how to self-sabotage myself. I
mm,
didn't learn that until the several jobs later, sabotaging myself
mm.
so that I would fulfill the prophecy of being the imposter that I thought they all thought I was. And
Yeah.
it turns out that they didn't think I was an imposter. They all looked to me as an expert, but that's not what I felt.
Yeah, that was
So
going to be my question. Did anybody ever tell you that
the
you,
last supervisor told me that I didn't know what I was doing, and because I had admired that person before,
mhm.
it must be right. But then wait a minute, I've done all of these other things, but it can't be the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it took me leaving that position to realize that it can't be the same thing. And
Mhm.
people are like, no, you knew what you were talking about. That's why she said that to you, because she wanted to fill you with the self doubt so that you would leave, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think unfortunately there are people like that, right? That
Mm-hmm.
in order to make themselves feel better, they will say things that are not true to others, so that they'll feel worse. So that they feel higher
And
or
yeah, and
more qualified.
I don't know if she thought, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt that she didn't consciously think that.
Mhm.
I think that was her battling her demons, et cetera, not realizing the full impact it had on
Sure.
me.
Sure. Mhm.
I'm going to give her the benefit of that doubt.
That's very gracious of you. Very gracious. So tell me, if you will, tell us a little bit more about the self-sabotage part. Like, can you have like an example or a story?
Specific example was, I know from all my other works that you get your invoices in by the close of a semester if you're dealing with
Mhm.
a college system. I didn't do one because I couldn't figure out how to do it. And rather than ask for help, I let it go and go and go. And finally, she stepped in, poured on you don't know what you're doing, why da 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 da.
Mm.
And that's when I did, I'm out.
Mhm.
Because either I'm going to go out or she's going to fire me. I'm not letting her fire me.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, and then I wonder that experience that you had with that manager, which I think I think we've all experienced bad managers, right? And bad
Hmm.
for the lack of other word, right? Just to
But
give
this
it
is
sort of.
only my second time experiencing it. So it was
Mhm.
still a really new experience
Yeah.
for me.
So, but and then what like how does that affect you going forward when you get to work for the next person? Are you thinking about that last manager? Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I and recently I found a support group, and they have a term that helps people with juggling all of these things, and they came up with this title, past traumatic job syndrome.
Mm,
And I love it because it fits. You are always anticipating that the next boss is going to be as bad as your worst one was,
interesting.
forgetting all the good ones that you had along the way. Your brain doesn't want to acknowledge all the good ones you had along the way, because you wouldn't have put yourself in that situation if you weren't such a fake and blah 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 and all of these other words.
Yeah.
So that I definitely tell people that you have past job traumatic job syndrome.
Yeah.
No.
I can relate. I've had bosses that are like, I don't know if you're familiar with DISC, like high
Mhm.
off the chart D's,
Yeah.
right? Just very like, do what I said. Why haven't you done it? I told you this 3 seconds ago. It should be done. Like, and then I've had some that are just like, you got to catch them with a butterfly net. They're just all over the place. They don't really know what they want. And I've had other really great bosses in between, right? And it's
Hmm.
you're right. You think about the ones that were so traumatic or damaging or painful, and that
Hmm.
changes sort of the way you behave because you don't want to do that again, or you want to be
Right.
ready if it comes.
Right.
So there's definitely some sort of like trauma that follows with that, and
Yes. So the
yeah,
past 2 years since my mom's passed, I've been trying to remember those good people.
mm,
The people who, like, I'm trying to remember. There was two women when I joined the TV station, along like one of my first jobs, and they literally sat me down and taught me everything,
mm,
because there weren't that many women in TV at the time, and I cannot remember their names.
mm-hmm.
But I want them, if hopefully they're listening, somehow they'll find out. I appreciate them so much. Then I had other than the men in that company treated me with such graciousness, kindness, teaching me, listening to all my frustrations, etc. Especially, and it's amazing the bad boss we had after, during the same people and I had another bad boss. I just realized it. I don't even think about them when I think about bosses because they were so comically bad.
Yeah, right.
You know,
They're more like a side
it's
character. Like
right.
nobody took you seriously. Get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, they were the comic relief bad bosses.
Yeah.
It's the ones that just browbeat it into your sanity, that you chunk away at every single thing you think you know. They figure out a way to attack it.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I knew marketing. I gave her a great marketing plan. She liked it. Somebody along the line must have giggled about it. Oh, this is the most horrible thing. I can't believe you thought of this.
Mm,
You know,
yeah. Wow.
so
Who would have thought we would compare horrible bosses? I see Jason Bateman as I'm thinking about that. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, Horrible Bosses. Like, who would
yeah,
have thought we would have compared that to the reason we have imposter syndrome?
yeah, because they make you feel like I'm a big fake.
Yeah.
I faked my way all through this,
Or
and that's where the
I'm
imposter
doing
syndrome.
something wrong, which is why they're
Right,
acting like this. I'm obviously doing something wrong.
right, and it's not until you realize that there is no way you could have faked
Mm-hmm.
all those people all that time.
Yeah.
Somebody saw something.
Right.
You know, who is it that's Shirley Chisholm? If they don't make you a chair at the table, bring your own chair.
Bring your own chair. Yeah.
Craft your own table. Just do it.
I
So
like
that's
it.
my goal now. Just do it.
I love that. So, okay. So we talked about sort of how it manifests itself. When you think
Mhm.
about that, when you think about the way it manifests itself, do you feel like there are other contributing factors? And I've heard you say a few of these already. So like like some of the things that we've said in the past are things like common triggers, being new to a job, suddenly having higher expectations than you had before. Is there something about you specifically that you think makes this imposter syndrome phenomenon happen or makes it more intense?
Because I know I'm an overachiever.
Mm-hmm.
To somebody saying that my overachievement isn't good enough starts making me doubt, well, was my overachievement real or not?
Mm. Yeah.
Um, it I don't take the I'm learning how to take criticism more objectively, and I can. A funny thing is, I'm also a writer. I can do that as a writer. I
Mm-hmm.
know somebody attacking the words is not attacking me personally, but when you attack the skills that I use to do whatever, that's when but you're attacking me now.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. We
And
turn it
that attack,
inside. Mm-hmm.
right? And that attack on that attack hits your psyche more than if somebody says, "I just don't like your work."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's, it's how could you have done that, as opposed to why did you do that, or that's not the work itself is not up to par, but your skills are, so let's work on it,
Yeah.
type thing.
Yeah. Did you mentioned earlier about being a firstborn? How do you think that affects you with imposter syndrome? Or, I mean,
I
does it?
have to be the best.
Mm,
I had to be the best. Even though my family had always said, do whatever you want to do, you still knew whatever it is, you had to be the best at it. And I was the good girl,
mm-hmm.
compared to, the one that my cousins were always compared to. And I hated that. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I was able to find the voice and say, stop it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have my faults. I recognize I have my faults. Don't put them into the same box I'm in, because we are different.
Yeah. And nobody likes to hang out with a saint,
Yes.
right? And saints
I,
don't
I
saint themselves. Like, you've been sainted because you're the firstborn and they have all these expectations for you.
Firstborn followed all, and my grandmother was extremely religious.
Mm-hmm.
I followed all of the church's sayings and all of that. And so when I started acting more like my mom, because my mom's the questioning one,
Uh-huh.
that's when everybody started going, ah, she's thinking
She's
things like that.
thinking, this woman is thinking, what are we going to do about that?
Well, she's thinking outside the track we wanted her in.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly they realized, but this is her track.
Yeah.
So I was, but I still had to be the best. I knew to get to college, I had to get the full scholarship. Because
Yeah.
if I didn't get the full scholarship, I wasn't going anywhere, and I didn't want to stay.
And did you feel, I know you felt that. Did anybody ever say to you, you need to get the full scholarship. You've got to be the best. You've got to be the top of everything.
My father did.
Yeah.
And to the point where I remember, my father's talking to my half brother. I came home from college for a visit, and my half brother was just starting college. And he said, "Do you have any advice for him?" And I had by then shed all shades of being the saint and the good girl. I was following my track, and I was a part of student government. And there was a branch of FSU's student government that had the motto, "Don't let your schooling interfere with your education." And I gave him that advice, and my dad roared.
He was
How
not
can you
happy.
do that? Hey, he's got to learn this and he's got to do this. And I'm like, he's your son, just like I'm your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to do well. But there's so much more out there to learn while you're at college.
Very much so, yes. It's not just about the history of civilization.
Right.
Again.
He turned out to be an accountant, but he had fun learning.
That's good.
And I tried to share that with another young lady that I know. She was 14 or 15 when she entered college, and they let her stay in the dorm, and she was determined to be a doctor, but by the time she was 21. And that was her sole thought. And I'm like, no, this is the only time you're going to get to learn about you. Take it. I don't know if she ever took that advice,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. That's a lot of schooling.
yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So then you mentioned the birth order, which I appreciate because that's actually come up on quite a few episodes in this
Yeah, I'm
series.
the oldest of my uncle's children. My mom, I'm my mom's only child. I'm the oldest of my maternal grandmother's
Mm-hmm.
grandchildren,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the oldest of my father's children. So, but because I skipped a grade, I was always the youngest in my group.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I had both
So you
syndromes
had both
battling it out.
both on both sides. So always the youngest in your education groups, but the oldest
Yeah,
in most of
the most
yeah.
of the biologicals. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. What else do you think? Is there anything else about you that triggers this? Um, that you think might make this more intense or definitely has an impact on.
I am an introvert who can fake being an introvert who can fake being an extrovert.
Yeah.
I can fake that my energy comes from being around people, but it's really more when I'm within myself.
Mm.
And I can go pretty deep within myself.
Uh-huh.
And if you tell me I've got a flaw, I'm going to sit down and try and figure out where it is, what do I need to fix it until I realize, wait, that's just one person's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes me a while to realize that.
Yeah. Yeah, we always call that you're an introvert that plays an extrovert on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, I did because I
Literally.
worked in TV.
Yeah. Literal for you. Yeah. Yeah, I've got quite a few friends that are like that. And I am an extrovert. This should come as no surprise to you or any of the listeners. I'm 97% extroverted, which means that I am always surrounded by introverts that I am sucking the life out of. And most of them I have just come alongside and adopted and like been like, come on, you come with me because I might need a snack later. Like, yeah. So,
I
yeah,
did that with siblings. Because I was my mother's oldest only, I would bring over all my friends and they would become my sister or my brother,
yeah, yeah,
not really thinking of the full connotation of that until I met some really dear friends and who I can truly now call my sisters of heart.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well, yeah, when you're young, yeah.
yeah.
Um, can I, if we can, if you don't want to, please by all means say no. I don't want to talk about that. But you brought up your weight and your weight loss, and I
Hmm.
wonder, did that affect your imposter syndrome in any way? Did it make you feel when you felt like you were overweight and needed to do something about that? Did that increase any of those feelings? If the answer is no, that's okay. I'm just
Yes, when I got to
curious.
college, yeah, when I got to college,
Yeah.
I put on the freshman 10 or 15 and then some, lost it, put it back on,
Mm-hmm.
and then started letting real world just consume me. So my weight went up,
Sure.
been up, been up. But I always managed to keep it under control. I had always managed to keep it around 200, which I realized was too much, but I could fluctuate between that scale. It wasn't until I got way past the 200 and realized this is affecting me physically,
Mm-hmm.
mentally, and emotionally because all that stuff was just building in me. So finally, I
Mm-hmm.
found my sister of heart is here, helped me. We unpacked, literally unpacked. I got more active in the sense that I was more conscious of what I was
Sure.
doing.
Sure.
Because if you're not conscious about what you're doing, then your body can't. My body can't focus in and go, okay, I'm going to use this and use that, use this, use this. I was. It was like I was rolling the moss, gathering more moss and more
Yeah.
moss,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of rolling. It wasn't until I went, wait, I can move in that direction or I can just roll.
Yeah.
So now I'm choosing to move in
With
whatever direction.
intention. Yeah.
Right.
Very good.
So
Well, I appreciate your willingness to be vulnerable about that. I know that I myself, that's a trigger for me when I don't feel healthy or I don't feel like I look my best in my clothes. I feel like it turns into I'm not enough, right? Like it turns out, and the only person having those feelings is me. Nobody else
I,
cares.
I personally I've never wanted the latest fashion.
Mm?
Well, there's your teen years, you give a little
Sure,
bit.
sure,
But
sure.
I never liked having somebody else's name on my butt, as my mom put it. She
Same.
goes, you never wanted that,
Mm-mm.
but you did want to feel comfortable in your skin.
And
When
confident.
I stopped
Mhm.
in it feeling confident in my skin, that's when I said, it's time to make the change.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was far enough from being with the apostrophe S that I didn't have to worry about what my mom would say, what my uncle would say, what
Sure.
my dad would say, what my grandmother would say. And now I can actually hear them more clearly going, that's all we wanted for you, baby,
Yeah.
for you to be comfortable.
For you to be comfortable in your own skin. And I think that a lot of folks listening probably feel the same way, whether it's because they've struggled to lose weight or so. I know people who have struggled to gain and keep weight on. As somebody who's always struggled to lose weight, of course I'm going to be like, what's that like? Right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you think about it, the same type of struggles that we have to lose weight are similar to those who can't seem to keep it
Mm-hmm.
on. And, people that are uncomfortable with the way their nose looks, or they have thin hair all their life. And so
Mm-hmm.
they just don't ever feel good about it. And I think
Yes.
I think that has more of an effect on us than we realize, because we take those thoughts of, I don't feel confident, and it turns into, I'm not enough, or I'm not pretty enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not, enter this word, enough.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it's like a cycle, because then you feel bad about
Yes.
that, and you just keep kind of going back around and round. And sometimes we can do something about that. You've done a great job of doing something about that. And sometimes you can't. Sometimes people are medically sick and they
Mm-hmm.
cannot change those things. But if we can recognize that that's part of what's fueling this feeling of we're not enough and we're not good enough, then we can kind of tell that monster of the thing I can't control to be quiet. Like, I'm very busy right now. I'm not dealing with
Yeah.
you. Sit
Well,
down. Yeah.
my current sister of heart, she calls them her demons
Yeah.
inside, because they're running uncontrollable in her head. So
It's
I
fair.
developed the habit of screaming, and she would think I was screaming at her. No, I'm trying to get past them
Yeah.
to get to you.
Trying to get louder than them.
Now,
Yeah.
right. So now that you've heard me, I can tone down now.
Yeah. I like
Now
that.
that you've pushed them aside, and she tends to defer to me when I have mine and let
Uh-huh.
me stew in them. No, I'm not. You have full permission. Challenge me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what gets mine away. The minute they're confronted, like when you invited me to be on the podcast, oh, I heard them loud and clear, and I quickly typed yes,
Yeah.
just to shut them up.
Yeah.
Oh, you did that. You're not going to be funny enough. You're not going to be witty enough. I'm me. That's all I can give you.
You are, I've laughed quite a few times, so you are definitely funny enough and witty enough, and you can tell those voices to shut it.
I'm working on them.
Yeah.
I'm working on them.
Yeah. And that actually leads us right to this next question, last question really, which is, why did you want to be a part of this imposter syndrome? I know I put out the, hey, do you want to be a part of it? Because you responded to I can't remember, I posted about something, you responded, I was like,
Yeah.
hey, slid into your DMs. Hey, Sonia, you want to be on this? And you were like,
Yes.
what?
Say it yes quickly
So
before you change your mind.
what made you type the yes really fast? Like, what was it?
Type it really fast before they have chance to react.
Yeah.
Because if I sat and stewed about it and thought about it, I would have said no.
Yeah.
And then I would have been mad with myself that I didn't say yes.
And what do you want other people to know about imposter syndrome?
There's no way you can fake. There's no way you could be a fake. Somebody would have caught it on way before you're realizing it.
Yeah.
I did the same thing when I joined my podcast group. I sat in the back for the longest time, being their archivist and their researcher. And then I started talking, and they're like, why didn't you talk sooner?
Yeah.
Because you guys are all smart and lawyer type and brilliant and published authors. So they're like, so? Doesn't matter to us.
Yeah.
Okay. So I talk now.
Good. That's good. That's really good.
So yeah. So I'm taking now the chances that I probably would not have taken even up to 5 years, 2 to 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Yep.
You know, I would have liked it if the people that I wanted to see this could have seen it, but I believe their energy around me and they're seeing it and they're hearing it and I'm getting you're doing good, kid.
Good. That's great. That's great. Well, I am so grateful that you came on and shared your experience, that you not only typed the yes really fast, but you showed up to the interview, because I'll tell you, I've had people say yes and then they're like, oh, never mind, I can't do it. And it's okay.
Oh.
And that I still like you, right? Like, that's okay. I get it. But that's what people need, is to really hear from folks like yourself that are experiencing this on a regular basis and finding small ways to cope and overcome. And so I'm so glad that you shared that with us. Thank you so much, Sonia.
And thank you for asking me. This has been a freeing experience.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. And thanks so much to the listeners. I hope that you will continue with this series and hear more stories about dealing with imposter syndrome. There are so many amazing people that deal with this every single day. And by sharing their story, it helps them and you feel less alone. So be sure you follow If You Ask Betty on LinkedIn and YouTube for more episodes and resources. Oh, and tell your friends, hit that share button so that they know that they too are not alone. Peace out.